The best Bosch EMTB will be one perfectly suited to you, how and where you ride, the length of your rides too. However, there's lots of things to consider, so we're going to help you navigate your way through that maze. There are many reasons why you might choose to buy a Bosch EMTB. After all, they are pioneers in EMTB, and so the knowledge, technical quality that comes with that is quite considerable. Secondly, service. There is great backup for you and your bike worldwide, and the peace of mind that that provides. Thirdly, the integration of the Bosch e-bike system that has been refined over more than a decade, with a range of displays, remotes and batteries. Don't forget the e-bike Flow app that gives you pre-ride, during and post-ride data, as well as lots more. Add to that a range of motors and the fact that you are continually able to update your system, and it all amounts to a great choice. So integration, what does it actually mean? Well, we're going to be using the Bosch Performance CX motor as an example, although they do have a lot of other motors in the range. Some of the rudimentary parts of the Bosch e-bike system are the motor, the battery, which comes in different capacities, and then of course are the various displays and remotes, which we'll cover in more detail as we go through the video. Think about the remote and the display and how you interact with those or not whilst you're riding. Now what we have here is the Bosch system controller and the mini remote. Now, two more things I'd like to introduce you guys to before we turn to the bikes themselves. The first one is the Bosch e-bike Flow app, and the second is the Bosch Performance CX Race limited edition motor. Now that is a bit special. So what features do the Bosch motors have? Well, remember, the Bosch Performance CX motor has a ton of great features. A range of modes to get you through different terrain and gradients and enable you to get the most range. Unique features such as extended boost, durability, and should you want to geek out, full adjustability. Okay, so what bike do you actually need? Where do you ride and how long for? Now, each of those does require careful consideration, so you guys are actually responsible to question that before I can take you through the next stages. Okay, here's a few things to consider. Now, the first one is the Bosch Range Assistant. You can find this on the Bosch website. It's a fantastic tool. It'll give you an idea of your battery usage, and that's based on an approximation of your weight, your bike, the terrain, and the environmental conditions. It's important because it gives you an idea of your battery consumption. For example, myself at 95 kilos, using a bike with a 500 watt-hour battery, a Performance CX motor, on an upland tour in soft tracks with Tour Plus mode engaged, that'll give me 21 kilometers approximately. With a 750 watt-hour battery, that's going to go up to 33 kilometers. Now that'll be a tough ride though. If I change that to hilly dirt forest paths on a windless day, I can more than double the range to about 74 kilometers. And so once you familiarize yourself with that, that'll give you an idea of the size battery you need. The next thing to move on to is what type of bike. I'm not actually going to cover budget at this point because you will find that most brands will offer the same model frame at different spec levels, so different price points. As an example, this very beautiful Trek Railia begins at around about £4,000 and tops out at just over £12,000. What I will ensure you is that same Bosch Performance CX motor will get to the top of a moderate climb at the same time or round about the same time, regardless of the price of the bike. It's true that things such as the suspension and the tires will gain you precious seconds if you're in a rush. But then, of course, you do have the Performance CX Race Limited Edition motor. Now we're at the Cube stand here at Riva Delgada Bike Festival. I think Cube is a great example of a company that uses Bosch motors on different types of bike. Now Cube categorized their e-mountain bikes either as hardtails or full suspension. Hardtail bikes come such as the Reaction Hybrid 1500, clues in the number there regarding to the battery, although you can upgrade that to a 750 watt-hour battery for just a bit more money. So prices on these bikes start around about £2,500. These bikes are actually great for mellow riding, such as forest trails and maybe the odd sheep track up in the mountains. Full suspension, on the other hand, come with different amounts of travel. Again, Cube are a great example of a company that offer bikes with 120, 140, 160, or indeed this bike here with 155mm travel. Now, in general, the more travel you have, the more comfort it provides in nasty terrain. So, with that in mind, let's go and have a look at some examples. Okay, let's kick things off with 120mm travel. This is the Trek Powerfly, a flying machine if ever I saw one. It's got the second gen Bosch motor in there, the Bosch Performance CX motor, and a 625 watt-hour battery. This is the Grand Canyon. It's a hardtail with a 120mm travel fork. It features Bosch's LED remote, a 750 watt-hour battery, and the Performance CX motor. The great thing about this bike is that it has the Bosch ABS system on it, which is great for an urban environment, but also when you're on those forest tracks up in the hills, the unpredictability of that loose, stony surface, this will definitely give you peace of mind. Now, when things get even nastier, a bike such as this Mondraker Crafty Carbon could be the bike that you turn to. Now, we rode this bike actually in La Palma a few years ago, and we climbed some pretty crazy climbs. So don't think that increased travel makes the bike even less capable on an uphill situation. When it comes to downhill, that 170, 150, which this bike has got, combined with the 29-inch wheels, and of course, the CX Race limited edition motor on this model, makes this bike an absolute beast. Now, what I mentioned to you guys earlier is think about how you're going to interact with the remote and the display on your new Bosch bike. On this particular one, we've got the LED remote and the Eboxx 300 there. It hasn't got the system controller on the top tube. So basically, it just comes down to your preference. Whilst we were out at Garda, we looked at another important Bosch EMTB, and that's the all-new Canyon Strive-On. We believe that mid-travel bikes around about 150 to 170mm travel are a great option for EMTBs, as they provide the suspension and geometry to tackle varied terrain comfortably. Canyon, as we mentioned, have the new Strive-On 160 rear and 170mm front with the Bosch Smart System with a 750 watt-hour battery, and of course the option of either the Performance CX or the CX Race limited edition motor. Okay guys, let's try and add a little bit of complexity into the story, and that comes with the different models you can get with a certain brand. Now, this is the Orbea world. It happens to be one of my favourite e-bikes I've ever ridden. Yes, they're smiling in the background. Now, this bike comes in various models. This is the EMTB version. Comes with a 750 watt-hour battery as standard. It is integrated. Come on to that in a minute. Comes with a 170 fork up front and 160 travel on the back. You can actually swap that out to the higher spec bike, which is the M Limited, which is actually 160 and a 625 watt-hour battery with the option of going for 750 watt-hours and of course 170 up front. Now, the special thing about the Orbea Wild bike, first of all, is the weight. Now, the top-end bike comes in at just under 21 kilos, which makes it actually one of the lightest full power, long travel bikes on the market. Now, Orbea have achieved that weight saving by removing the door from the front of the down tube, at the same time making the bike lighter and also equally as strong in that area. If you guys are thinking of investing in a big hitting e-mountain bike, look no further than a bike such as the KTM Macina Prowler. This bike comes in 4 different model configurations. Things to look for if you're going for a more of a gravity style bike are things such as a big fork, hard hitting, grippy, soft compound tires. On this bike, we've got 2.8s, discs of 180 or 200mm, and of course the option of having either a coil or an air shock on it. A coil shock is definitely more suited to the big hits. This bike has got a 750 watt-hour battery on it. And another thing to think about when you're choosing your Bosch bike is the wheel size. Now, this bike has got 29 up front, 27.5 on the rear. Something a little bit special, the Nicolai GT1 Eboxx. The core of this bike is the fact that there's no derailleur. It's got a 3x3 hub gear on the back. That's matched to the Gates carbon drive, belt drive. What I really like about this is the fact that because there's no lubrication needed, it means it doesn't attract dirt or grit or mud on the trail. So music to my ears. In terms of the Bosch kit on it, we've got the LED remote, 750 watt-hour battery, and the Performance CX motor. Great thing about Nicolai bikes is the sizing. If you're a taller rider, especially, the size reach in a medium is 505, which means there's a bit of length above the bike, which means taller riders, there's room in the cockpit to move around.
So that in itself is quite a few examples of bikes to ponder. But essentially, for mellower riding, you don't really need as much suspension, so a hardtail bike or a bike of 100 to 140 mil travel will be great. However, should you have ambitions of more technical terrain, then you might want to consider something with a bit more travel. And finally, your method of buying, whether that be direct sales, local bike shop, or online purchase.
Hey, look, folks, the Bosch e-bike system is really well proven, but I'm going to leave you with this thought: bike festivals. These are great places to look at different remotes, different displays, battery sizes, bikes, wheel size, the amount of travel. So I think a festival is a great place to help you hone in that final decision.